What would happen if everything you do in your life is a failure? Even now, you may be thinking that your life is a failure and nothing good has happened in the recent past. If you think your life is a battlefield, and you have lost continuous battles, and feel like quitting, then this video is for you. Once you end this video, I can assure you that you will learn to appreciate the small things in life. Because, in this video, we will be seeing about the life story of a man who had met repeated failures, but never lost hope. By the end of this video, you will be thinking that if this man can cross hundreds of hurdles in his life, why can't I cross just a couple of hurdles in mine? This story belongs to Colonel Sanders, the founder of KFC. Ever since Sanders was born, he had two shadows that followed him wherever he went. One was his own shadow in the light and the other shadow was failure. Both shadows followed him till the age of 65. Only at the age of 65, he started a small shop named Kentucky Fried Chicken, but he never knew that he would have the world at his feet 100 years later. I am sure that if you watch this video fully, you will never dare to give up on anything. So, now let's put our feet inside his shoes to experience the disaster-filled life of Colonel Sanders. Our story begins on the 9th of September 1890, in a place named Henryville in Indiana when Wilbur David Sanders and Margaret Ann gave birth to a beautiful boy whom they named Colonel Harland Sanders. At that time, USA was not much of a superpower as it is today. It was just a developing country. Back to the topic, Sanders hadn't spent much time with his father because his father passed away when Sanders was just 5. As his father wasn't alive, the responsibility of taking care of the family was shouldered upon his mom who did petty jobs. Since his mom went to work, Sanders had to do much of the housework by himself including cooking, cleaning etc. along with school work. At the age of 12, Sanders got another shocking piece of news. His mother was marrying again. Now, Sanders had a stepfather who treated Sanders very badly as a maid. So, Sanders ran out of his house as he couldn't bear the ill treatment by his stepfather, and he dropped out himself from the school where he was studying. All this happened when he was in his 7th grade. After he ran away from his house, he started roaming the streets in search of jobs. He tried plenty of different jobs, but nothing was permanent, because he was fired out of every job and was called as a failure. Finally, he got himself into the army. But Sanders was too young for the army and Sanders had lied in order to enroll himself into the army. As soon as the personnel came to know about this lie, Sanders was thrown out of the army. He then tried his luck at a law school, but was again rejected. Next he went to work as an insurance agent. But they were not ready to recruit a person without formal education. He again wandered in search of petty jobs here and there. Meanwhile, when he was just 18, he met the love of his life and married her and became a father to a beautiful daughter at the age of 19. Still, he had no stable income and a steady job. And Sanders was a short-tempered man and hence he often fought with his wife. Unable to bear the cruelty of Sanders, his wife too went away to her parents' house with their kids when Sanders was 20. Hence, at the end of his teens, Sanders was a failed husband, a failed student, a failed son, and a failed employee in various jobs. Again Sanders wandered the streets, doing every minor job that he could, but never had a proper job and a stable income. Unable to bear the frustration of his failure in jobs, Sanders went to an extent to kidnap his own daughter from his wife's home. When he was about to kidnap his children, he was caught by his father-in-law and was blasted and scolded severely. He then convinced his wife to come to his home, promising her that he would give his best to run the family and would not get tense easily. To keep up with his promise, Sanders tried every job with an even greater effort from his age of 25. He again did lots of jobs in various places ranging from mopping the floor to washing dishes, working as railroad worker, sweeping etc. As I said he was uneducated and hence could not do high-income earning jobs. To describe Sanders' teenage in one phrase, it would be hired and fired. He spent the next 40 years of his life doing every job he could, ranging from a tire seller to a ferry driver, shifting from job to job. He had tried at least 20 jobs a year, but none were successful. 40 years is not as short as you think, it is more than half of a person's average lifespan. Back to the topic, at the age of 65, his retirement age had come and the US government sent him $105. They actually sent $105 to elderly people who were poor and jobless, and Colonel Sanders was one among them. He knew that his neighbors considered him as a failure. But this time, even the US government was considering him to be a failure and sent him money to sustain a living. Sanders was heartbroken on seeing this. So, he thought of committing suicide at 65. So, he took a pen and a notebook and started to write a suicide note. But, suddenly an idea flashed in his mind. Why shouldn't he write all that he had achieved till date and all skills he had learned through his jobs? He listed them one by one for around 3 pages. He read that list again. Everything was written only once. But, he wrote one thing for more than 10 times. And that thing was that his friends ate the chicken he cooked and admired its taste. In that list filled with all skills that earned him the name of failure, there was only one skill that others had appreciated. And that was to make chicken. He then thought, why not try his luck in something in which no one had called him as a failure? With this $105 from the government and additional $87 borrowed from neighbors, Sanders started a small restaurant on the side of a highway. Even at the age of 65, Sanders was still confident that this business would be successful. As Sanders hoped, his restaurant was a booming business. Sanders turned out to be successful and happy, but his happiness was short-lived. Within a few weeks after the business was skyrocketing, the American government constructed another road right next to the highway, and this made 95% of the traffic take the new diversion. Hence, Sanders's business was again a failure, just like the other jobs he had done. Even Sanders knew that he was not going to live so long, and even if he starts a business, he won't be able to get back the money he invested. So, Sanders thought of a plan. The plan was to make a sample of his chicken in nearby shops, hotels or restaurants and allow the owner or the manager to taste it. If they liked it, he would share the secret recipe with them and get some money from the owner. Now what he did was the real example of persistence. He first went to a small shop, but was not able to impress the owner with his chicken. He tried again another time, he was again rejected. He tried again so many times and was still rejected. The number of rejections went from 2 to 10, then 10 became 100, 100 became 1000 and finally, it came to 1009. After being rejected 1009 times in various restaurants in USA, he still believed in the taste of his chicken and tried once more. This time, the 1010th time, a shop was ready to accept Sanders's recipe. This shop soon turned into a franchise. Sanders named the shop as Kentucky Fried Chicken and started to work there. KFC soon was a skyrocketing business and was at the peak of glory. But Sanders had other ideas. He decided to sell the corporation to a private investor named John Y. Brown. But he had sold it under 3 conditions. Number 1, the investor must not proclaim the ownership of Sanders' authentic chicken recipe as his own idea. Secondly, the logo must have his face. Thirdly, a fraction of the profit earned by KFC must go to his family too. After agreeing all 3, John Y. Brown bought KFC for a whopping $2 million. Even today, Sanders is the official face of KFC, as we can't deny the fact that Sanders values quality and customer satisfaction more than the money he had. Soon KFC implemented standalone stores and introduced take-home model. By the year 1967, KFC had become the 6th largest restaurant chain by sales volume in the U.S. Later KFC started opening outlets in Canada and soon spread itself into more than 40 countries by opening around 3,000 outlets. After 1970, KFC changed many hands before coming into the ownership of Yum Brands in 1997. Under the leadership of Yum Brands, KFC added more items into its menu that included sandwiches, desserts, etc., which would complement the best-selling chicken recipe. By 1991, The sales had doubled and reached an estimate of $6.2 billion with around 2,500 outlets around the world. Well, that was just the beginning of expansion for KFC. Because, after this, there was no stopping to this ever-expanding fast food joint. Today, KFC is a subsidiary of Yum! Brands that also owns the Pizza Hut, Taco Bell, and Wing Street chains. Today, KFC is the second largest restaurant chain of the world. Even if there were lots of ups and downs for the company, KFC has still been the preference of billions of customers worldwide, with more than 22,000 branches open all around the globe and 138 countries. This company, once bought for $2 million, is worth around $23 billion today. The person who had sown the seeds of this multi-billion company is Colonel Sanders. In this world, how many of us think that we have nothing, no one supports us, our life is full of failures? Instead of knowing our inner potential, we are turning into a complaint box, blaming life for every failure we face. I don't have this, I don't have that, I would have succeeded if I was supported by my parents, my friends discourages me. We are blaming everyone for failure, except ourselves. So, friends, remember that age is just a number and that failure is not final. With this thought, I am ending today's video. I will see you with another video. Till then, goodbye.